already done it and we have already been informed that there was no novelty in the study. So what you will do in this? So I kind of discouraged her that, I don't, because I said I don't think we can pursue in this particular research area. But then during those days, I was reading Economic Times, and on the first page of Economic Times, there was a very interesting story. That story was about, one trader from Bikaner. Bikaner is a place in Rajasthan. And he was a derivative trader. Sorry, he was an exporter. Exporter of what? Exporter of, there is a bean called guar phali. Guar phali is a kind of vegetable, kind of bean, which is normally available in the sandy areas, okay, the desert areas. And during the last few years, what the research has proved is that guar phali, that bean, is extensively used, by the refineries, in the oil refineries, when they are converting crude oil to the petrol or diesel. So they are doing blending of that guar phali, and that is giving excellent result. So that person, that Gutu Bhai was his name, they said he is an illiterate person. He has not the formal education at all, and he drives. At that point of time, they were talking about Bajaj Chetak scooter, that old Bajaj Chetak scooter, and at times he will carry 1 crore or 2 crore rupees in his scooter only, and guar phali is 3,600 crores. To have gone further interview, the question was asked to him that what do you do apart from this business? Where else you have investments? He said, I am a Mohammedan, so I strictly believe in Sharia laws, so I make investments in those companies only which are Sharia compliant. Now, that line was an eye-opener for me, that do we have companies which are Sharia compliant? Then I called that girl again, and I said, I have heard about it, so let us explore it further. So when we explored it further, we realized that most of the companies in India, most of the top-notch companies in India, they are Sharia compliant. How they are Sharia compliant? Because there are certain ratios which you must keep in mind because you don't earn interest, okay, that your interest income is low, and then you are not into any kind of area which is prohibited as per Sharia laws, okay, and if you are meeting those conditions, then you can be tagged as a Sharia compliant company. Now what advantage you will get if you are a Sharia compliant company? The advantage you will get is, because in India, we know that, large number of Mohammedans are there, and they believe in Sharia laws, and they also want to make investments. They also want to create wealth, but they cannot keep it in a bank. No? So what options they have with us, with them? So then, in order to attract those, it led to this idea. So that led to received later on that, and its return never came from my side. Idea. So we say at the maybe public to research products of literature. In the morning session, you had a lecture on bibliometric literature. Now, I will also touch upon. But the idea is that you must have observed that bibliometric literature review is just a quantitative form, quantitative presentation of our literature. Okay, that all the literature can be quantified. But we always say that bibliometric literature review complements your existing literature review. You cannot have just bibliometric literature review because you can use it alongside your literature review, but this is not a substitute for literature review because literature review plays a very, very important role. So the first thing, it brings clarity and focus to the problem. Now, one more experience I would like to share with you. That was about one of my Ethiopian students. Now, when that student came to me, and he was a very good student, a faculty member, senior faculty member in Ethiopia, he said that I want to do some research in the field of country branding. I said, I have heard about company branding, but country branding, because it was around 10, 12 years back, okay, I have never heard about this concept of country branding. Then we started exploring literature related to that. Then we came to know that there are events which brand a particular country, like Olympics. When Olympics are held in a particular country, so many people visit that country. So that improves the brand positioning of that country, because people come, they see the infrastructure, they see the organizing capability, they see the resources and all. So that improves the branding. I asked him, I said, you want to do it in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia doesn't have any kind of that kind of event which can depict that whether the country branding can be influenced by that mega event. Most of the literature was related to impact of mega events on country branding. But then we discussed more and more, and then we realized that why do you talk about only mega projects? We talk about mega events. Can't we talk about mega projects? That if in a country there are mega projects like oil refineries or power generation plants or those huge projects which are there in a country, don't they also influence the country branding? So that was a new idea which we try to gather from the existing literature, those events, to convert it into projects. The topic which we decided on the basis of that was the impact of mega projects on country branding. Now with this what happened, that project was a new of its kind, and we could publish 9 papers out of that particular area. So, literature only which helped us to finalize the topic. So we say it brings more clarity and more focus to your research. As I mentioned earlier about knowledge management, it was the existing literature which to finalize, keeping in mind the constraints, what can be the best suitable way to conduct research in the Indian Army related to knowledge management. Then we thought this knowledge sharing behavior can be an important area, so allows that. So that's how it more clarity, more focus to our research. So literature helps you that also. Knowledge base in the area, you try to become a try to explore so many things, then you see which particular area you can work on. It improves your every time you choose a new topic, a different field, or you give some kind of leverage to your students, okay, you come with your ideas, we'll discuss it. That helps us to improve a lot or to learn new things. I tell you, one more Ethiopian student came to me and he wanted to do something related to small and medium enterprises, and the performance evaluation related to small and medium enterprises we wanted to do. So I asked him, I said, I have been to Africa region and I know the kind of small and medium enterprises you have. Even if we talk about India, publishing any paper on the basis of the financial statements related to small and medium enterprises is always dicey. Why dicey? Because those who will evaluate that paper, they will say, this is based on financial statements. And financial statements in India means what? You go to a chartered accountant, you tell him okay, I want this much amount of profit to be disclosed, so all your financial statements should be fudged accordingly. You know? And everybody knows about it. So if that is the basis for your research, that is the foundation of your research, I don't think it will have. He started, exploring more and more about that, what we should have if we want to do that. Then from the there are other advantages of evaluating if your secondary data is not reliable. There are scales available, there are questionnaires available, a good amount of studies which we have observed, where the performance evaluation, especially the financial performance evaluation, was done on the basis of the. Okay, so that was something new for me also, that you can do this by not using the secondary data, but using the primary data. So we say, okay, literature helps you to improve your methodology. It also provides us new, out-of-box, innovative ideas. Whenever we come across any challenge, because if I say I have my student, 37 of my students have completed PhD, all those PhDs have been full of challenges. And every PhD has a challenge. Now, one of my students, he was from hotel management, because our university started hotel management course, and no teacher was available in the hotel management course, no senior teachers were available. So two of our colleagues who joined hotel management, they wanted to do PhD, but no supervisor was available. So I was called upon by dean and others to help them out. I said, I don't have any idea about hotel management, but at least I can, supervise the research process. Okay, the process which they follow is proper, and then, we can help them out. So one of my students, he came up with a very innovative idea regarding, hotel management industry. He wanted to do his PhD. He finalized the topic related to gastronomic experiences of tourists visiting Punjab, Amritsar city of Punjab. Now, gastronomical tourism, when this word, when I heard, I said it seems to be kind of medical term related to gastrology and all. No? But then we realized that this is one of the priority area of world. They don't just see the physical ambience and all, but they go there for food also. Like those who visit Amritsar, we may be having this impression that people visit Amritsar just for Golden Temple and Wagah border and all. But Amritsar is food capital of Punjab. Okay, most of the delicacies, which you get in Amritsar, you will not find anywhere else in the world. So they wanted to know, but the problem is that they use a lot of desi ghee and all. So I thought there is something related to this. But gastronomic experiences with the topic we finalized, the process which I supervised, I said, okay, we'll have some good models related to this. And the model which we adopted, that was related to pre-dining, during dining, and post-dining experiences of the tourists visiting Amritsar city. So three types of experiences we were supposed to capture: pre-dining, during dining, and post-dining experiences. Now, it looked like a very flashy kind of topic, very good topic that, we are capturing the experiences. Now, it's okay when somebody has gone to take food, before he has taken food, we can tell him, okay, please fill our questionnaire, please give answers on the face of this. But when it comes to during dining, and you ask someone to fill the questionnaire to answer few questions, it becomes a challenge, isn't it? But it is part of the research process. What do you do? No? So, my student was telling me that I am facing challenges because people say that don't disturb us when we are taking food. So I said, then what to do? Because somebody has come up with this model at the international level, they also must be facing the same challenge. So then we, again, went back to the literature to see that what got from literature was, they said they give them some bribe, most conducted. I would like to share, people have been talking about micro, this. Have you heard about it? Concept of microfinance. Professor Muhammad Yunus, heard it? Professor Muhammad Yunus, he has gone back to his own country, Bangladesh. Okay, what should I do? That my knowledge, my expertise which I have gathered should be used for my own people. As we said earlier, why research is important? Research is important because whatever you do, whatever you learn, it should be used by the society at large. It should benefit your own people, it should benefit the country. That's the purpose of research. So he thought that if I did my PhD in America and I go back to my own country, Bangladesh, which is very poor, densely populated and all, so how my knowledge of economics is going to help my own people? So he started, examining what the problems my own people are facing. Though people are poor, why people are poor? One of the reasons which he could identify was that they don't have access to the finances. Access to the finances. So he started with a small experiment. What was that experiment? He thought if I give money to individuals, it will not come back. So he adopted a model called self-help group model. Money will not be given to one person, but money will be given to a group of people, and group of people will have a collective responsibility to repay that money. So that is something innovative which he has done, and that model worked, and it played a very, very important role in the transformation of Bangladesh. Okay, so Professor Muhammad Yunus and the bank which he created. Have you heard about the Grameen Bank? No, cricket wala sponsor Grameen Bank. Now, that bank was created out of a challenge. Now, what was the challenge? When Professor Muhammad Yunus started this experimentation by giving funding in the groups, he was successful. He was getting good response and the recovery rate was very good. So he thought, but after some time, whatever money he was having, that got dried up, but he wanted to expand. So he approached the banks and requested them, why don't you also follow this model, which I am following? You see the recovery rate is good, the return is good. But whenever we go to a bank to take a loan, one thing which they ask is collateral, security. But these poor people don't have security. So they came up with an innovative idea of social security, a social collateral. What was that social collateral? That was responsibility taken by the group to repay that money. So that was the social collateral. So he said when he went to the banks and requested them, and they said, Professor Muhammad Yunus, we cannot give you money because there is no collateral. He said, but you get good return. Okay, so they said, okay, then why don't you start your own bank? Okay, so he accepted that challenge, and then only Grameen Bank came up, and the results of that Grameen Bank were so good that the kind of empowerment which was taking place, the poverty alleviation, the employment generation, and the women empowerment, which were the outcomes of this microfinance concept. It was so good that Professor Muhammad Yunus and Grameen Bank, they got a Nobel Prize, Nobel Peace Prize. He didn't get the Nobel Prize in Economics, but a Nobel Peace Prize because of the extensive service to the community. Now, one of my students wanted to do her PhD on this topic. And then we started thinking about that if you want to see the impact, okay, how microfinance has led to the women empowerment. Because if you ask someone after joining the self-help group that have you got empowered? So yeah, I have got empowered. But is the measurement technique appropriate? If somebody, then we, did extensive literature review in which we got an idea with regard to our research design. That was, okay, let us do pre and post assessment. Okay, before joining self-help group, what kind of ideas, what kind of empowerment, what kind of thought process he was having. After joining the self-help group, what kind of change has come up in her. Okay, so with regard to, we say, research design or methodology, the literature helps you in finalizing that. Now, it also helps us to, finalize our questionnaire. We get ideas for that. Now, next part is that, a lot of literature is available, different types of literature is available. And as I said, that in all those 8 steps related to research, you should use literature. But is it that the same type of literature should be used every time? No. For different steps related to research, we need to consult a different type of literature. We must be clear about that also. Now, what is that different type of literature? First is, we say our first step in research is identification of the problem. Okay? Now, at this stage, what is our purpose? The purpose is to gain the preliminary orientation and the background knowledge. Okay, a variable has come to your mind. What exactly is meant by that variable? How do you conceptualize properly? So, for that purpose, the research paper will not help you much. But the reference books or the encyclopedias or the textbooks, they will help you with that. Why? Because those who develop encyclopedias and dictionaries, they do a lot of hard work in that. Okay, as many types of issues which are related with that particular concept or variable, they try to incorporate that into that entry. No? So that's why we say if you come across any word which is to be used as a main search word or main word of your thesis, then try to understand that word by going to the encyclopedias or textbooks or reference books. That will give you a broader idea about that particular word or concept. Then we want to gain the up-to-date knowledge in the field because, as I said, people come with the theories, people come with the concepts, but those concepts are old. If you try to publish them now, you will not get any publication value because people will say this is something very, very old. So if you want to know, if you have come across a good let's say variable or a good concept, but quite an old concept, and you have already been done in that, you should. And when we are at this stage, we try to avoid the duplication. And to avoid the duplication, we must go through the thesis. So we say okay, at this stage, the reference books, the abstracts, the surveys, the existing thesis, all those should be consulted before you identify the problem. Then comes the second one, you want to formulate a problem. Okay. Now, problem formulation again is a very, very tedious task because you may be having some issues in mind. But what is your problem statement? How do you try to see what you want to study out of? Now, in that case, we say we want to become familiar with the appropriate methodology or research techniques that we study. So again, the previous studies in the field, journal, published and unpublished thesis can help you with that. Research design. When we are finalizing our research design, people are often confused as far as using the right kind of research design is concerned. No? Because they are used exploratory research design because I am exploring something new. But you don't know that exploratory research, because most of the research in India, especially in the management and commerce literature, it is exploratory. It's not exploratory research. It is descriptive research. No? So exploratory research means when you are exploring some new theories, and developing some new theory take a long time. So we should not use exploratory research design for that purpose. We say that most of the time we are using descriptive or exploratory or diagnostic as far as the OB related papers are concerned. So we say that at this stage, for clarifying the concepts or knowing the measuring techniques, so the literature, then all the studies which you have reviewed, go for that part where you see that the way they have used the literature, the data analysis, the primary data, the post-traumatic design. Now, other is field work and data collection. Now, here the kind of literature which we need to study is, from the existing study, we see in-home, telephone, email, internet, which particular way of collecting the data is more appropriate. Your existing literature will help you. And then the fifth part is very, very important. That part is when we are trying to apply the statistical tools. Now, at that point of time, we know these days in many of the theses, what is happening, application of new techniques, new softwares, new fashion in the sense you should use AMOS, PLS, and all. So, because we often ask this question, it happens, like your literature will tell you, that the same results are given by the stepwise regression and the multiple regression. The same when the regression, because then you should use SEM. So, what your basic premise that gets wrong, masters or we don't need them. We need them again because every statistical tool, every statistical application has certain assumptions. Is your data meeting those assumptions? Okay, so you should have clarity about that also. So then you go to that kind of literature. Then report preparation and presentation, again you see the formats from the journal, the textbooks and the reference books. Now, one of the confusion which comes to our mind is about article and research paper. Are they same or they are different? Yes, any idea? Is it one and the same thing? Research paper and article? Yes. Is it same?
No.
Then one. Are they synonymous or they are different? Any idea? कुछ तो बताना पड़ेगा, चाहे गलत बताओ ठीक बताओ, कुछ तो बताना। क्या एक ही चीज होती है अलग अलग? I will not move further. I will ask you the opposite on there. They are same or different? They are different. How they are different? Which is better, article or research paper? Research paper is better. Why it is better? Articles you normally find in newspapers, isn't it? In newspapers or magazines, you find articles. Research paper you find in journals. Now, how they are different? Article is whatever comes to my mind, whatever my experience, my exposure is, I write. My own opinion. As you must have seen in the newspapers, in the last it is written, opinion expressed is personal to the author. We don't own this, whatever he has said, it is his experience. But research paper is different. Research paper means when a proper scientific process is followed to conduct that research and unbiased. Why? Because as I often say, in research, whatever you do, whatever you say, it is with evidence. Either quantitative evidence or qualitative evidence. Quantitative evidence in the form of data, qualitative evidence in the form of the literature. So, research papers always have a formal research design. Systematic process, step-by-step process is followed. Whereas, in case of an article, no such process is followed. It is the personal opinion of the author. Now, we say an article is a piece of writing by an expert. He gives his own suggestions based on his experiences, observations without a formal research design, testing of hypothesis or empirical evidence. Whereas research paper is written on the basis of empirical evidences, both primary or secondary, or on the basis of literature review. And researcher makes recommendations on the basis of the results of the study carried out with the help of primary or secondary data. So whatever you say, that is based on some evidence. Now, having said this, can we say that articles are of no use? It's only the research papers which matter. Can we say like that? Huh? No? Okay. Why no? When we should read articles? Just to get ideas. Okay, good. Ideas about what? As I mentioned in my previous okay. Now, both papers as well as articles can be used. How we should select them? Articles should be selected on the basis of the reputation of the author. Like if we say Dr. Manmohan Singh has written something, you can always count on him. Why? Because whatever he has written, his reputation is also at stake. So, Professor Michael Porter or any reputed person who has written, so that should be chosen, that can become basis of the literature. And so we say in case of article, the reputation of the author matters. We should select only where the author is reputed. And when it comes to research papers, then the reputation of the journal matters. Because we know so many, predatory journals are there. You pay them 500 rupees, 800 rupees, you can get your paper published. But no review process is involved in that. No? So that's why that should not become basis or foundation of your research. Recently, I evaluated one PhD, and the foundation of that PhD was, because the basis which that candidate has made, she said, I have used McKinsey report. Okay, what McKinsey has given in its report, that was the basis of my research. Okay, some important parameters, some important methodological aspects were taken by her, and she said it is based on McKinsey's report. Now, McKinsey is a very reputed, we know, consultancy firm, isn't it? Now, somebody will hear about it and we say, okay, McKinsey has said this is correct. situation was when McKinsey or Deloitte or PricewaterhouseCoopers or this Boston consultancy, whatever all these top-notch groups are, whatever they write, is it reviewed? Are there any reviewers for that before they publish it? No reviews done. Do they follow a scientific research process while writing those reports? No. They are catering to a particular segment of their clients, and those reports are prepared for that purpose only. So are they that reliable? Are they properly reviewed? Are they scientifically, written? There is a question mark on that. I'm not saying that those are wrong. Not saying that. But as far as the systematic research process is concerned, it is not followed while writing those reports. Because they have not gone for extensive or rigorous reviews. So that's why I'm saying a good quality research papers must become the basis or foundation of your research. And if you rely yourself upon substandard papers or some articles not written by the good authors, then you will lead to a kind of situation which will not be good for the research outcome. There will always be a question mark on your research outcome. So that is another thing which you must keep in mind. Now, how to keep literature review? What is the most important thing in the literature review? That is the reference. And if you don't have reference, then that's our not use. Topic, you all are friends. Now, next part is again very, very important. That how you should write, what are the different styles of writing literature. Gone are the days when literature used to be written in the chronological order. What used to happen, that if you have, let's say, 60, 80, 100 studies with you, what you will do is, in the chronological order, you will review that literature, maybe ascending or descending order, and then you will write the research gap on the basis of this. But these days, it is expected that we should go for a thematic literature. Thematic literature means if your study has, let us say, 3 or 4 variables, then you should write that literature review in the storytelling form. Okay, from where this concept originates. Of that theory. Where we are right now. So, literature review, where you categorize literature into different parts, and each part itself is a kind of story that from where it started and where it is right now, and on the basis of that, you develop some kind of hypothesis. So, writing, but what is expected these days is thematic. Okay, you should have different variables and categories of your literature. You try to organize that literature into that form. And of course, you already have talked about literature review. Expression or different ways of looking at literature. Now, but for this purpose, you must have observed that if you have, let's say, 60, 80 studies, like when I did my good analysis for literature, now they used to just gather, papers from here and there. But these days, when any of my students submit their synopsis, minimum 100, 150 research papers he or she must have examined. And when it comes to the full thesis submission, though it is around 600 to 700 research papers. Why? Because of internet. Because we have access to the resources now. So when you have 6 to 700 or 500 research with you related to the different form, started writing a paragraph about all those 600 600, 700. It's not possible. So then we take help of technology here. Then we take help of this bibliometric analysis, that what are the latest trends, the citations and all. You must have come across this, the data collection, data cleaning. Now, what kind of trends generally we capture? Publication trends. You must have a detailed analyze annual or periodic growth of the publication in the field. In which particular year trends. These days, that if you want to use let's say scale or this citation analysis is very important, because more and more citation means more and more approval of that particular model or scale. So citation analysis can also give you an idea about this. Then authorship patterns. Okay, who are the main authors, regarding this particular concept. Then of course the journal analysis. Okay, like these types of papers, where they have been published. Have they been published in high impact factor journals or low impact factor journals? So when you have done analysis related to that, it will give you an idea of what kind of publications have been done from this related to this particular field. So again, a quantitative expression of that. Co-citation or bibliographic coupling also. Shared. You can always see that because publishing your papers in international is not easy. You put the citations of those editors in your paper so that they also improve their citation attacks and all. So citing somebody's paper gives that person an edge, isn't it? Because his citation, which index that will improve. So to overcome, to analyze that, where the citations have been, are they from the same journals where those people have been edited? These days AI is helping us in that also. Then of course geographical patterns also these days, in which types of regions these publications have been studied. That can be another way of examining your literature. So the point which I want to mention here, that when we say literature, organizing the literature into different ways, different ways of examining it, that is very important. As I said in the beginning, what is literature? It is not just critical examining, but it is organizing also. How you organize your existing literature, and this way, when you are going for this bibliometric literature review, again you are trying to look at the literature from different angles. Now, visualization tools, you must have talked about it, as Dr. Professor was saying this. So some meaningful conclusion, what are the emerging trends, shifts in the search paper, who are the influential authors, what kind of collaboration have taken place, the interdisciplinary connections, what kind of connection they have, and on the basis of that, what are the gaps in literature. Now, this is very important, as I was talking about the thematic literature review. Okay, you have a theme, you have an area, a lot of literature is available related to that, but then you try to examine it, organize it in such a manner that ultimately you come to a research question. Like if you have 4 sections, 5 sections of your literature, then out of all those 4 or 5 sections, you will have 4 or 5 hypotheses. Because literature, the hypothesis or the research question are to be derived from literature. There is a misconception in the mind of the researchers that hypotheses are derived from objectives. No, hypotheses are derived from literature. So when you have a thematic kind of literature review, where you have different sections related to literature, every section should culminate into a research question or hypothesis. Think about this inverted pyramid, where all that literature is organized in such a manner, is written in such a manner, the logical flow is there that ultimately it leads to a particular research question. This is another way of writing the literature in tabular form. Okay, that at times if you have to have a glance on the methodological aspects, the kind of variables which have been used, okay, the sample size and the results and the author, this can be another way of writing the literature. Now, this is very important. What you need to consider when assessing the literature. First is that who wrote it and why did they write it? Where was it published and how it was reviewed? Then, when was it published? A good paper was published long time back. Then, are conclusions based on whether clear or rigorous were the tests performed or the data analyzed? Now, one more misconception in our minds is that only, sophisticated or rigorous statistical tools will increase the publication value. That if we apply very rigorous, latest statistical tools, only then we will be in a position to publish. That is wrong. You will find even in the A-star category journals, papers written with very basic, statistical tools used. Because what is important? Important is how you build the story, statement of the problem, and how you draw conclusions out of it. And what implications, the policy implications that particular paper is having. That is more important. Otherwise, when we say, is it that these statistical tools are of no use? Why do we need to apply the statistical tools? Why do you need statistical tools? क्यों चाहिए होते हैं statistical tools? Why can't we have simple statistics? Any idea? Why do we need statistical tools? Statistics हम इसलिए यूज करते हैं, we do use statistics to remove personal bias. कि personal bias को हमारे analysis, हमारे research से remove करने के लिए we use statistical tools. मैं अक्सर एक example I often share कि what happened once, हमारे एक colleague थे, he shared with us, he was attending one program. तो उस प्रोग्राम में ऑल ओवर इंडिया से डेलीगेट्स थे, एंड ही सेड कि वन डे वन पर्सन फ्रॉम सदर्न पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया, ही सेड कि 50% of the Sardars they smoke. He said, how you can say this? If 50% of the Sardars they smoke. He said, I know two Sardars, one smokes, the other one doesn't smoke. That means 50% of the Sardars they smoke. So, if your sampling is not proper, then what will happen? It will lead to these kinds of, hilarious kind of conclusion, isn't it? That's why statistical tools, sampling, statistical tests are important. So, but that doesn't mean that statistical tools are everything. The way you draw conclusion, the way you draw implication, that's very, very important. Now, we will move to the next part. Can we write and can publish full research papers on the basis of only literature? Yes or no? Yes. Are they better? Do they have an advantage over the empirical papers? Which one carries more weight? The papers written on the basis of the data which you have collected, that will give you more mileage, or a paper which you have written on the basis of literature will give you more mileage. based on literature. Why? Huh? It contains more information. Huh? Because, maybe 100, 150, 200, 300 research papers are summarized or are presented in one research paper, which carries more knowledge. And I was surprised, a few years back, I examined 2 theses which were based on literature only. No data was collected, no statistical tools were applied, but it was a meta-analysis of the existing literature which ultimately led to, those research studies. But doing this is not an easy job. It's very difficult. No? Because the way you organize that literature, the way you try to draw conclusions on the basis of that, we have been trying to publish papers on the basis of literature review, but it involves a lot of effort, a lot of thought process involved. How to organize, how to have different ways of looking at literature, what kind of categories should be made, what kind of patterns should be studied, not just like bibliometric, but otherwise also. How the paradigms got shifted from one phase to another phase. So let us have the literature related to those paradigms and what led to that paradigm shift. So a lot of effort, a lot of seriousness is involved whenever we want to write a paper on literature. Because if you just reproduce whatever you have in the form of an information dump, nobody will publish it. To make it publishable, you need to apply your mind extensively. Only then it will have some kind of publication value. So you need to organize it well. Yes, we can write papers on the basis of literature review only. It gives you more citations. If from other empirical paper you will get 5 citations, from here you will get 30 citations. Because more and more people will use it. So that is, though the effort is more, but the reward is also more when you write a good paper on literature. Now, coming to the third one, theoretical aspects, the theoretical underpinnings of your study. Many of us, we underestimate the importance of theoretical underpinnings of the research. Many of us even are not familiar with what theoretical framework means. Now, in any case, when we say any kind of research, when we evaluate it, evaluation criteria is, they often ask, how it has contributed to the existing theories, or it has contributed towards the existing theories, which means development of the theory which takes a lot of time, but then there are people who work on those theories and who try to improvise that theory. So that is the systematic way of doing research. So having said this, we say working on a research without any kind of theoretical underpinning will make your research work weak. Okay? And those theories are so crucial at times that even for a simple kind of research, you can have some meaningful implications from this. It happened once, I was examining one research paper, and when I looked at the title of that research paper, or when the person started, because there was some interview going on and he was supposed to present that paper for the promotion of a professor. So that guy has done his research on the bus drivers. Now, bus drivers of Haryana Road Transport Corporation. Now, one idea which comes to your mind immediately is, what kind of research can be conducted on bus drivers? Now, what kind of research it is going to be? But thanks to a strong theory okay, because that theory has given directions to that research, okay, that particular research paper has got very important, implications. Now, what implications? Now, bus drivers, the paper was related to the HR. No? Now, that was about that the kind of training which is given and the exposure to the risk which is given during the training, how it influences the accident rate or the fatality rate in the Road Transport Corporation. I said, what is it all about? Then I tried to correlate it with my own, experiences. Experience was that a couple of times I met with an accident. One was during a few years back. There was very intense fog in Punjab, so I was to go to Amritsar, and from our place to Amritsar, before I reached that 6-lane highway road, around 40 kilometers was a single road, and intense fog was there. So I was very careful during those 40 kilometers. But the moment I reached that 6-lane highway, so I increased the speed of my car. Thought nobody will come from the front, so let me go a little faster, without having an idea that there might be some blockage, and if I don't get enough distance, enough visibility. So what will happen if I have to put the brakes? And it happened. There was some accident already there. I was fast, visibility was not there, and I also banged in that car. Now, next time, I am now conscious. Why? Because I have been exposed to that risk. Couple of more moments, the turns where I almost met with an accident, next time I am careful about that. But now when I read that research paper, when that presentation was done, it was about giving training to the drivers in such a manner that exposing them to the different risks quite frequently. So that, when they drive, when they are exposed to that risk, then they will be extra careful about that so that the accident rates can come down. Now, a simple research looks like related to drivers, not that important research, but very powerful implication. Implication in the form of saving lives of people. Implication in the form of reducing the accident rate. What kind of, how the training, it has an implication for the management of the Road Transport Corporation, how much time, how much rigorous the training should be to reduce the accident rates. So that is the importance of theories. When you go through some good theoretical frameworks, that gives you ideas about the research which may have a very good implications for the policy making and for serving the community and the society. That's why whenever you meet any foreign scholar and they would like to know on which area you are working, they will not say on which area you are working. They will say on which theory you are working. Question is, they say on which theory you are working. That means that will give you an idea what kind of research you are doing on. Secondly, two of my students recently, we started with some new topics. What were those new topics? I was reading a newspaper, Business Line, and I came across one tagline, one news story in that. Families, those who socialize together, have better financial well-being. Something like this was the topic. So I was surprised that the families which socialize together gets better financial well-being. What is it all about? So that story was about those families who sit together during their lunch or dinner time or on the dining tables or in the drawing rooms. So if they discuss their finances, if the parents, they discuss their finances with with their kids, then all those kids in the later part of their life can have a better financial well-being. So we were looking for one topic. My student wanted to work on behavioral finance. So next day went to her when she came. I said, let us see. Okay, this seems to be quite an interesting topic, but is there any theory available related to this? Then we explored. Yes, that there was one theory which we could identify, a couple of theories which we could identify, but that was not in the Indian context. But we could finalize that topic on the basis of that. So having an idea, but then having a theoretical support for that gives you a leverage. Yes, you can work in this area because somebody else has already, worked something related to that. Another was related to the couples, the couple financing. Okay, the financial these days financialization is is a good buzzword these days. Okay, husband and wife. Now, who has taken the role to manage the finances? One of them, or both of them, or none of them? No? So, what if both of them are, working on their finances separately or together? So, this idea also came from one of the news items, and then we explored that there are a couple of theories available. So, that was another important topic which we could choose out of this. That was about the financialization and the financial management rule. So, whenever any idea comes, you are doing any kind of research, theoretical underpinnings are very, very important for them. It's not that any idea comes and you say, let me do my PhD or let me guide my PhD on the basis of it. Theoretical underpinnings through theoretical framework will always give you an edge. I faced a lot of challenges when that, hotel management wala jo main aapko keh raha tha na topic, gastronomic experiences. People said, oh, what kind of research you are going to do on these small dhabas and those lady walas and all? He said, no, we have an international model. We have a great theoretical framework available here. So, we could justify our research on the basis of those models, those theories which were available. So that gives advantage to you, more clarity to you, if you identify the theoretical underpinnings properly. So it refers to the underlying theoretical approach you adopt to underpin your study and the conceptual framework and organize the concepts which are important for your study. Now, one of the problems in the research is, let's say we come up with an idea, okay, we'll do performance evaluation. Okay? Now, performance evaluation is a very wide concept. So many types of performance evaluation can be done. Consumer behavior is a very wide concept. But then, if you want to decide a particular topic, you conceptualize your variables properly. Okay, what this concept means and what out of this concept, which particular sub-concept you are going to take. So conceptual framework related to the study, theoretical framework related to the study should be given a lot of importance in the research process. Then of course, clarification of the research questions. Okay, many times they are rejected because they lack focus. There can be too many. You must have heard about when we examine, let's say, regression, R-square is given. People say that we should have a high R-square, maybe 40%, maybe 50%, maybe 60%. But there are studies where even R-square is 2% or 3%. It is considered good enough. Good enough for good important observation. Why? Because there are factors where even if 2% or 3% influence is there, percentage change is there, that is considered good enough. So here the point which I want to mention is that when we are considering the variable, if too many factors are influencing a particular relationship, then that study should not be taken up, that research question should be rejected. Okay? When too many moderating or intervening variables are there and project is unfeasible in terms of complexity, access and resource. Now, research design. We have already talked about many of the points here. What data do I need to collect to answer this question? What is the best way to collect the data? And in this, one of the important things is who should participate in your research. Let me share one of my experience related to this. My first PhD student, he did, because we were very excited, very ambitious, when I started supervising the PhD. So we thought we would do something new, because I had come from UNDP assignment after meeting Mr. Michael Porter and all. So we thought that let's do something. First student, and we thought there's something new we should do, and we thought they will do our research on balanced scorecard. You heard about balanced scorecard? It's a performance management system. So now this is a concept which is understood by the top level management of it. Okay? So we conceived the topic and the synopsis was made with this idea that this balanced scorecard concept is to be studied to capture its extent in the Indian banking sector. So we thought we'll collect data only from the top level management with a 60 sample with the mixed match approach comprising of interviews and all. Now when we presented that synopsis in front of the faculty, the seniors and all, they said, how you can do your PhD with a 60 sample size? And more so, it's going to be very challenging to get data from those 60 top level bankers. Isn't you better have some escape route, okay? Have more regional managers and branch level managers into the research process. You collect data from them and have a data from, let's say, around 300 students, 300 bankers, comprising of branch level managers and other, middle level managers. So we thought it's okay that if minimum 300 sample is required, then we can have some branch level managers into this research. So we agreed to that without visualizing the implications. Now, what happened later on, that when we collected that data from 300 odd managers, senior managers, and 50-60 top level bankers were also there. But our data, when we started analyzing it, most of the data was not carrying any particular trend. And we realized that people have just filled that data without even understanding what they are, the text which they were marking. Now, what was the reason behind that? The reason was that balanced scorecard is a concept which is understood only by the top level people. A branch manager or a lower level manager, he doesn't understand what the balanced scorecard is. because it has something to do with the strategy execution, the performance management system at the top level. But what was the problem in that research? The problem in that research was lower level people who don't understand what balanced scorecard is, they were allowed to participate in that research. So that led to what? The whole data got diluted, and the implications were not meaningful. No? So at this stage, we say when we talk about this research design and all, who should participate in research? That is also very important. Okay? Because if somebody who is not aware about that, but they participate in that research, that will not lead to any kind of meaningful research. Who should participate in research or gain access to them? That hotel management example I have already explained to you. What procedure you should adopt to ensure the reliability and the validity? I understand that you already had a lecture on this, validity and reliability. But I would like to share one of my own experience with regard to this. This commanding officer who did his PhD on knowledge management, he was very quick, very fast. He was from Tamil Nadu. Every time he used to come, he was full of action. So when we finalized this post, so one fine evening, spent some time and we finalized the questionnaire. And for 15 days, for next 15 days, he disappeared. He didn't turn up. And after 15 days, he came and he said that, I have got 300 questionnaires filled. I said, but you should have talked to me that we want to do some kind of pilot testing. We want to check the validity, we want to check the reliability. He said, what is that? Because he was an army officer, he was not aware about the validity, reliability, pilot survey and all. He said, I said, the questionnaire which you have prepared, is it understood by your respondents? Because, the meaningful conclusions can be drawn only if the quality of data which you get is good. Because if your respondents have not understood those questions and they just filled it, then what kind of conclusions we will draw? He said, okay, what is to be done for this? I said, normally, in case of primary data survey, we go for a retest. He said, what is that retest? Check the validity, the reliability of the responses. He said, what is done? I said, you give questionnaire to, let's say, 20 people. Then after 10 days, again you give the same questionnaire to the same people and ask them to respond again. And then you check whether the responses which were given 20 days earlier and the responses which are given 20 days afterwards, are they similar? If they are similar, it means they have understood your questions well. Otherwise, if they are giving one response 20 days earlier, but giving a different response 20 days earlier, that means your questionnaire or the reliability of the data is in the question mark. Then he just started thinking about it. He said, okay, I can do it. Because how he could fill the 300 questionnaires in 15 days time? Because he was a commanding officer. He used to, visit different units, call the Fauji's, and put them for a parade and give them a questionnaire and instruct them to fill that questionnaire. That's how in 15 days time we could get 300 responses done. Then he just thought about it. He said, yeah, I have done some coding, so I can do it again for maybe 20, 25 or 30. So reliability, he did it again, but this is important part, important step in your research. Okay, once you have prepared the primary, your questionnaire, if it is not a standardized questionnaire, then you must go for a pilot test and a retest to see whether your questions have been properly understood by your respondents or not. Otherwise, your data collection will not be reliable. Data collection, we have already talked about which methodology to use, which methods to utilize. We have talked about it. Then Data analysis. Now, this is very important. As I was mentioning, that literature is like the lifeblood. Now, at every stage of your research, you should talk about literature. Because when you analyze few things, you must see how your findings are supporting the existing literature. As there was a PhD Viva today, and most of the hypotheses which were taken, they were alternate hypotheses. There exists a relationship between this and this, there exists a relationship between this and this, because literature was also saying that. Most of those hypotheses got accepted, okay, and then most of the results were in line with the existing literature. Then there is a question mark. Okay, what is the contribution of your research? That if literature already says this, you already also say this, then what are the outcomes? So there has to be some kind of surprise element, some kind of newness, new outcomes from your study. So that's why we say, okay, at the time of when it comes to the analysis, the data analysis and discussion of finding, most of us we fail to publish in good journals. Just one reason: we know how to apply the statistical tool, but how to discuss on the basis of that, that part we don't emphasize much. I remember one of my students, where we find out of 5 hypotheses, around 2 hypotheses were not supported, 1 hypothesis was partially supported, then your job becomes challenging. Because if it is not supported, then your findings are not in line with the existing findings or existing literature, then your job is to find the reasons why our findings are strange or different from the existing literature, and what can be the possible reasons for that. That is your real contribution. Because if literature also says the same thing, you also say the same thing, what is your contribution then? Isn't it? So discussion part is very, very important. We underestimate the importance of demographics in the discussion part. Because we take so many demographic factors while designing our questionnaire, but when it comes to discussion, we don't talk about it. Because there can be variations across the different demographic attributes. Maybe in terms of age, maybe in terms of qualification, maybe in terms of experience, maybe in terms of level of income. So if you have taken all those demographic variables, but in discussion, you are not talking about it. Then what is the point in taking all those demographic variables? So a lot of information is available if we play with the data properly. Okay, the different demographic characteristics, how they influence our findings. Our findings may vary across different demographics. So we say when it comes to discussion is very, very important. And if you don't emphasize much on this, then your study becomes weak, it will not have good publication value. It also happened, now it may not be a good example to share with. One of our colleagues, he got published his paper in A-star category, highest. And these days we have social media, so people put their papers on the social media. You see this paper has got published in A-star category, so we also put that paper. But then people, examined that paper, and somebody said this table which you have put here, that is wrong. That doesn't belong to this research. That doesn't belong to this particular aspect which you have studied. No? But then what we could draw out of it, that the people who have published that, they were more interested in the discussion and the implication part. Okay, how you build the story and how you draw conclusions out of it. So those are drawing conclusion, the discussion part. We underestimate it, but it is very, very important. Do the findings add to this literature? Do they support literature? If not, then what are the possible reasons? A lot of time need to be spent upon that. Then drawing conclusions. Again, when we draw conclusions, we should think of our objectives again. We should think about our research questions again. That what I had thought about and what I am talking about now, what my conclusions are they in line with my research questions or not? Because research question is what? What I am trying to achieve from this research, what I am trying to answer. But when you are drawing conclusions, you forget about that. No? So it's very important that we should link that conclusion should relate back to the focused research question. You should evaluate how successful you have been in achieving your objectives, highlight the strengths, weaknesses, and then make recommendations on the basis of that. Don't come with a general recommendation from here and there. Recommendation should be specific from your findings. Anything which has not been discussed in your data analysis and your findings, that should not become part of your suggestion. Because suggestion has to be on the basis of your discussion, on the basis of your data. So a logical flow has to be there. So this is a summary. I will be talking about this. 2 more minutes before we move to the next part, current trends in research. When we make a research paper with minimal steps, this is important. Okay, if you want to get your paper published in good journals, what you should do? Okay. So what we should do, the first thing, okay, the paper, the journal where you want to send your research paper, at least read 5 to 6 research papers of that journal, so that you get an idea that if you want to get your paper published over there, then what kind of paper you should have, what quality, what magnitude, what extent you should have. Then read at least 5 to 6 papers. Our author guideline you should go through properly, because it will be classification. Don't copy, because these days plagiarism is there. Whenever you get the reviewers' comments, answer them quickly, because after some time they will get out of track. So plagiarism, you already know about it. So that's all about the scientific research process. Okay, all these 8 steps are important. You should not underestimate the importance of So all these 8 steps are important. Now, any questions?
Any question, please ask.
I just shared whatever I learned from my PhD, my students' experience. Okay, and if some of those experiences can be helpful to you, then you can become better researchers. Any questions?
Okay, so.